Welcome to Mike Happens, a podcast that brings you inspiring, funny, and authentic stories about resilience, life's unexpected journeys, and the incredible strength of the human spirit. My name's Conor Reilly, your host, and as a voiceover artist who's also navigating life with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I've learned firsthand that life's toughest moments often make the best stories. Today we have Ed on the podcast today. He is someone else that is in the entertainment industry. He does a lot of different things, but I'm going to let him take the reins here and introduce himself.
That was well put. All right. So I'm a project manager. I currently work in animation. I also do live action, and on the side, I do a lot of producing and consultant work for various different mediums. So that's kind of what I cover in a blanket.
Okay. What would you say that kind of inspired you to jump into the industry a bit, and like what part of entertainment's, I guess, your favorite?
I mean, I love features. I love live action features. Even though I work in the animation medium, I only went into animation initially to get a big studio credit instead of trying to go up the ranks of feature live action film. And the whole reason I got into it is, as a kid, I basically just loved going to the video store. We were talking about this earlier with a little bit of the community that I'm involved with, and just like VHS tapes. We used to rent them all the time during summer nights, and my grandmother let me watch like horror movies like no other. So like I had an affinity with like watching Vincent Price movies, like super campy, fake skeletons walking across the screen, like in some pyramid or something like that. And it was so cool. And she realized how much I loved it. So she ended up getting me this How to Make a Horror Movie VHS tape. It was amazing. I think I still have it in one of my boxes, but it's like, it just shows you the behind the scenes. And there's like this, I just remember ingrained in my mind, like this pit of maggots. And like the actor or actress had to jump in. And it was a whole thing. They were like writhing around and stuff. And then you realized all of the different elements that take place to make these things, and just how cool the puzzle is. And that's really got me, what inspired me to get into storycraft and storytelling. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've never I've never really thought about because I'm a big fan of like special effects and all that, and just a lot of appreciation, like Foley artists I've always wanted to dabble in. But just I never thought of like horror movies probably have like such a crazy special effects team that like, and not saying like other categories of movies and stuff don't, but I'm sure horror movies are just like, they're just another level,
Yeah. One perfect example of that is, in college, you're doing some of your best work or most memorable work, right? In the case of like what's impressionable upon you, because the quality of the work is awful, but the actual work itself and the trying things out is just so much fun. We had this really nice house we were living in, and downstairs we were doing a 72-hour film festival that I helped start. And one of the other teams had asked me to like be in their movie. So I was helping out and letting them use our house. And in one of their special effects that I didn't know they were using was a squib. So what a squib is basically is like when you get hit by like a gunshot or anything like that and the blood spurts out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know the official term for that.
Yeah. There's like, it's like, you have impacts, which are the things that hit the wall and stuff, but then you have the squib that shoots it out. And the scene called for a squib shooting up, and fake blood went all across our really nice ceilings.
Damn. That's not fun to get out.
Stained them. Yeah, exactly. So then like when we had to give up the house after our lease was up, there's just this blood spray across the roof, and trying to have to explain that, right? Like,
well, real blood will, it'll oxidize over time. That this stuff you can, go through that conversation.
Yeah, and we're too dumb to go get a paint roller and paint it, because why would we do that? Instead, let's just keep it up there.
Better story.
Let the next person deal with it. Yeah.
Find the real owners of the place,
Mm-hmm. But yeah, exactly. And the just those special effects and just like the fun things that you go through, and like how you tell that story and how you get into it is just such a blast. And of course, now with YouTube, you're able to go search all that stuff. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
we were lucky enough in college to be able to do that with YouTube, but not to the extent of today. Like today, you can find out anything.
Oh, especially like, costumes, cosplay, all that. I remember a few years back, I think I mentioned to you I'm a stilt walker, right? I do the stilt walking thing.
Yeah.
And we end up basing one of our stilt characters because it was like I was a scarecrow. I was a scarecrow, but it was based off the Batman scarecrow from when he put on the mask and then he
Like that
did all.
burlap sack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we found this video on YouTube, and it was just like you get the styrofoam mannequin headpiece, and then you cover it in like all this stuff, and then like put fabric over it, and then you put the burlap sack over it, and like make sure it's the size of your head, and then you just let it dry for like you let it sit for like a couple weeks or whatever, or how long, I don't know. It had to dry forever. So yeah, like we made it, and then it ended up being a really cool costume. Most people didn't enjoy being in the costume because it's very claustrophobic, and it wasn't great. You had a rope around your neck, and you had you had the mask on. It just wasn't for everyone. And then you're on, I was on stilts. We had some ground people too, but the stilts was something. But it was cool because like I'd just post up at and then just jump out and like scare people because they're like, oh, that's a statue. There's no way this 9-foot scarecrow is real. And then I just, that was one of, the times that I really appreciate. Wow, YouTube really does something. I know you mentioned your grandma was kind of like a big introduction to some of your interests, especially like, that movie. What would you say was like kind of the chapter in your life, or, what made that change, or like, this is what I'm doing, and like started going after it, so to say?
I mean, honestly, I always loved story.
Is there a moment that it shifted, so to say?
Well, there's a couple shifts, right? There's the video games, which I loved video games, and I just loved hearing the story and it playing out. I think the first time I loved story officially, but even before the horror movies, was I would read Native American books on their culture and their religion, basically the gods or their deities, essentially, right? And the stories that were told to the children. And for me, that was really impactful because I realized this is how you could teach morals and ethics. Same thing as the Bible or anything like that, not to get too far down this path, but it's very interesting to see how societal like desires are met through storytelling, right? You want to teach your children to do better. You want to teach a lesson to your community, whatever it may be. And that was the first pivotal change. And then it switched over for me to video games because the variability that you could achieve with gaming, interactive storytelling, right? Which I still have a very huge fondness for. I just don't have the time really to play video games anymore, which makes me sad. Then my biggest shift, I think, came when I was in college and I was choosing several different majors. I always knew I wanted to script write, and I decided just to take some courses, and that's when it finally settled in for me, like, I want to work in entertainment. I don't know why. Even my mom was always like, just go to film school, go to film school, go to film school. And I was like, no. I should become a doctor. I should become a lawyer. It was psychology, criminology, like macroeconomics, microeconomics. I went through the gambit of things. And each one of those played an important part in my life because I carried them into my other jobs. And understanding the psychology behind people and knowing how to do finances and business law was super important. It became a backbone for a lot of what I'm doing, especially as a project manager dealing with legal, scheduling, budgeting, and dealing with people, which is the most important part. But that switch, and then choosing to leave the comfortability of my job that was already almost at 6 figures. It was about to turn into 6 figures, and it was working as a security guard at a really amazing place with amazing benefits and amazing people. And I just hit a wall, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't what I want to do. And the biggest jump for people in film, at least in the past, and right now it's all shifting, but was moving. was relocating yourself and getting to Los Angeles, going to New York, going to one of the big hub spots, and surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and basically doing it, right? And I made almost no money. Like, I went from that amount of money to nothing. I had like, I want to say $5,000 to my name, maybe. And that went real quick in LA, right?
But yeah, that's what, half a rent.
Yeah, pretty much. Depending on where you live. No, the first house I lived in with 16 people.
I know people out there that, yeah, like you said, they're just, 8 to 16 people. Like, they're just how you got to do it, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah, and I did this super stupid thing where I knew I wanted to do it, right? Like, I was like, okay, it's time for me to move. And the crazy part is I paid for a room in this house for 5 months before moving. It was a waste of money, but it also became, now that I think of it, going back and looking at it, it became a tether for me that I couldn't ignore. It was, I am paying this valuable money to this place in Los Angeles. What am I doing? And it would constantly remind me of a question of, why am I here? And eventually I moved. The place was terrible. Like, the guy was horrible, and some of the people there were amazing. In fact, one of the people that lived with me was a K-pop star. This was before Demon Hunters. But yeah, they were
before their time.
Well, we didn't know. Like, I didn't know, and a couple others didn't know. But there was a K-pop fan in the house as well, and she lost her mind. She was like, "Guys, it's this. Like, it's." And I was laughing so hard because this is like the slummiest thing you could be living in. Like, why are you living in this house as a K-pop star? It's crazy, right? But that's LA. You have no idea who you're going to be living with, what you're going to be doing.
For sure.
And then from there,
so many backgrounds of people and things,
It's so wild. It's so wild. And the amount of roommates I've had that have been different, like mediums or different, I don't know, like they've all worked in some form or fashion in the entertainment industry, right? Because it's LA, and usually if you're trying to find a roommate, it's because you're trying to make it. But I've lived with comedians, I've lived with actors, actresses, I've lived with, some became big, some moved out of town. And there's always a time limit, I feel. You either stay for a certain amount of time or you leave. And there's 3 or 4 like timelines in my mind that, like, the first year, if you make it the first year, okay, you're in it. If you make it after 3 years, like, you're probably going to be around for a while. If you make it after 7, you're like a lifer. But if you try and you can't make it to a year, you're more than likely gone. Like, you probably will never come back. It's a very
that makes sense. Cutthroat for sure. And to bounce off, like, what you're saying about getting the apartment, for 5 months. I feel like recently there was a discussion with my partner and I, but we're talking about manifestation and all that kind of stuff. And I think a big thing people don't realize about manifesting things, right, is, yeah, you can put the positive energy out there and be like, I'm gonna do this, this is gonna happen. You keep saying it, right, but until there's actually some groundwork or even a plan or something that tethering you to that idea, it's not gonna come to fruition. I think a good chunk of manifestation, sure, it's speaking into the universe, but also I think a big part of manifesting is also, what are some things that I can do to hold myself accountable to this thing that I really want to do? And then boom, sure, you start kind of manifesting that. So I feel like for you, at least part of manifesting that, was, I got this apartment that I'm locked into, and this is part of me manifesting my next chapter, so to say. So I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, and manifestation is a great way of putting it. And on the flip side of that, again, maybe we're switching industries here, and this is a whole other podcast for you. But like
I said, we can go whatever direction.
Yeah. Well, talking about like the human psyche and understanding psychology and how we go back to, here's my wallet, thank you for crying, I want to pay you for your product. Like, even every single nuance on a website that you are watching that media or whatever, however their marketing campaign is going, the images that you see, down to the click of the button and how easy it is, and placing an item in your shopping cart, and the reminders that are sent after the fact, all of that is in a almost reverse, not, I wouldn't say reverse manifestation, but it's like, it's a psychological cue to you to come back and make a purchase, right?
Definitely.
I am committed. I made a choice by clicking on that item. I now feel committed. And it's kind of important that you take action in your life to do something, because if you don't, you are just going to talk about it. You are going to talk about all the positivity. But until you get into the nitty gritty of it and actually like do it, that's the biggest part. Like, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, definitely. Just like, I think that's a big thing, is just getting started and whatever, you know, you're trying to achieve, or, you know, you're working towards, is just making that first step, I think, is huge, you know, and it's a weight off your shoulder, you know, in a sense too, where it's just, oh, you know, I'm actually kind of starting to do this, you know. And yeah, I mean, I definitely can relate, because, you know, just jumping in a voiceover last year, like, kind of was a big kind of, and, you know, I think everything happens for a reason, and everything led up to it.
Sure.
And but, you know, it was a big jump, you know. And I've always been open to trying new things, and I knew I always kind of was like a bit of an entrepreneurial type, and just kind of that, like, want to do my own thing, and trying different things. And I think a big thing, which I talked about my episode that I recorded before this, is, you know, trying things and being okay with, like, letting it go, and just accepting this might not be it, you know, or whatever it might be, or you can just do it for fun, or, you know, there's so many levels to it. But, like, I feel like so many people just, oh, well, I put 6 months into this, and this money and effort, and it's just, well, you're not stuck to that. You don't have to be. So I think that's a big thing people need to accept too. Something you don't like, something, you know, it's not, you don't feel it in your gut, it's okay to walk away, you know.
Yeah. I'm perfect point case to that. Like, as far as animation goes, I like it. Do I want to switch back to live action? Yes. Am I in a new chapter in my life right now because I feel that the industry is in a perilous state? Yes. I am trying to learn multiple different things now, including AI, including, you know, which a lot of people hate, a lot of people love, but it's a necessity that's currently in today's society.
Yeah,
and you kind of need to know.
There's a place for it, and you can use it how you please, I think.
Yeah. And I'm, again, you know, this is a whole other conversation about how the impacts, et cetera, et cetera. But the important part is trying and failing, and not feeling like you wasted time, because the only thing that you wasted is, well, if you didn't do it, what you would have wasted is the potential. You would have wasted the potential of having something successful. At least you tried it. At least you did it. And you learned something from it. I promise you. You learned not to spend your money on that. Or you learned, you know, some very minor skill. Like, I was a butcher at one point in my life.
Dude, I did jerky, so I was basically a butcher too, you know. And I actually made my own jerky, and I still want to, like, make my own jerky company down. Well, I technically have it, but it, you know,
Jay's
whatever.
Jerky.
It'll be there, you know. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to, I just had to relate there. But yeah,
but this is the perfect, like, that's exactly what it is. Like, everybody has life experiences that will attribute to something later in their life, no matter what. You may be at a party, and maybe you know how to cut something up, or you may be on set like I was. And I knew how to, you know, I knew how to handle specific cuts of meat and what they were. And it's like, they're like, why do you know that? I'm like, well, yeah. Yeah, you know, during, so you remember the Sony leaks when all the emails went out and, like,
yeah.
Yep. So that happened as I was working for a company, and all the companies went crazy. They're like, we need to beef up our security. All facilities now need to have, like, keypads and cameras and, like, all these physical security elements most of them didn't have. And they also had to, like, worry about key fobs and intellectual property and digital, you know, all of that. My boss was complaining about it at the time, and I was like, oh, you need help with that? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I worked in security and intellectual property for a very high profile client for a long time. And we did monitoring. We know how to set up cameras. I know how to do control panels. I know how to, and I literally met with a vendor and we knocked it out in like no time. And we had it up and running. This was also with the help of my lovely boss at the time. She also was a mentor of mine, and she was like, "Oh, you know how to do all this too? Cool, Ed, take it." And I'm like, "Great." And we put it all together, and he became certified, and he was able to accept business quicker than a lot of the other places. And that's because of past experiences you wouldn't actually expect in your career, right? So
Definitely. I think a lot of people like forget that too, is like, I've been through quite a different ranges of things that I've tried, or, jobs and stuff. And I try to, one thing I try not to like see that as like a failed job or career or whatever it might be. It's like, well, in a sense, it's like free schooling. It's just you're getting these things that people are paying to learn, or, taking this class or whatever. And it's just, well, I went and got paid and have 2 years experience doing it, or whatever it might be. And it's just that is valuable, that the value that people don't always take with them,
yeah, and learning something you're uncomfortable with too. Like a lot of people, they want the prestige of working in film, or they want the prestige of working in, for a company, a specific company. But a lot of the times they forget that you may not know something like social media or marketing or understanding how to deal with people. And if you go work for a job where you're uncomfortable doing that because you don't know it, the only reason you're uncomfortable is because you're afraid of failing. Like, there will be a point you understand it. Like, even if you grasp it minimally, there will be a point where you understand it, you're educated on it, and you have value to put into a conversation in the future. And it will get you leagues ahead of other people just by making that small commitment of doing something you're afraid of. Because they're probably afraid of it too, but they're not going to go and take the action that it takes to do it.
Definitely. I think a lot of people, they give up before they give themselves a chance. And, I've been a victim of that for sure.
Yeah.
At points in my life, and just kind of like, overwhelmed, or, just kind of intimidated or whatever it might be, and just walk away from it, But, yeah, I think that's really important. Just giving yourself the time. And for me, like, sometimes when I'm not getting something or understanding it, eventually there's just like, there's a light bulb that goes off, and it's just like, oh, I'm getting it now. Like, I understand this, and I think a lot of people don't allow themselves to reach that point, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird world in how everything works, but it works. And you gotta like just trust everything that happens. Because you're gonna fail. You're gonna ultimately not succeed. You're gonna have somebody upset at you. You're gonna have somebody disappointed in you. But there's gonna be a whole lot more people that are accepting, happy, and approving, more than likely, unless you're doing something absolutely terrible. But you're going to learn, and it's going to take a little time, and maybe you'll meet their expectations later on after you learn enough. And that's
Definitely.
kind of how it is.
I think people, a lot of people appreciate like, vulnerability a lot more than people think. I think being vulnerable and just being honest and just straightforward, and I think that goes a long way for some people, and it's just, I think being able to allow yourself, yeah, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, or whatever it might be. And it's just, but I want to, and I think that's a big thing.
Oh, so critical to be able to admit you don't know. So critical. If I have people that I'm hiring, and if you are a know-it-all, and if you keep telling me that you're aware of how to do something, and then you lie to me, or you just decide to deflect, it is such a critical failure point on the team that I don't want you. Like, I would
Definitely.
rather you walk in and say you have zero experience, zero, than the person that has a little bit of experience and brings down the team in a negative way, can't admit they're wrong, or fails. Like, I just can't.
sometimes the more experience people have, the bigger kind of the ego they have, and I think it's hard for some people to like separate, like, sure, like let's say you do have the perfect person that comes in and they do actually have all the knowledge, but the likelihood of them not having some sort of ego, is very, it's hard to come by, so I understand why companies sometimes don't want anyone with experience, because they can kind of shape them and do the way that they want things done. And I respect that. It's just like, okay, well, yeah, you did it this way here, but like this is how we do it here, and if you can't be like, okay, I can do it that way, whereas like I feel like a lot of people like, well, I'm just going to do it this way anyways because this is how I know how to do it, and it's just that doesn't really fly with a lot of companies, I feel like.
Right. You have to be malleable. Otherwise, like, what's the point? There's always a new workflow, by the way. There's always something new happening. So.
Right. So I know you want to eventually kind of circle back in live action more, but you got anything else that's in the works, or anything else that you're kind of looking forward to in the nearish future?
Non-stop, everything in the works.
Yeah.
You joked and said you have things that you have to be able to like put aside and not do, and just because you don't have the time. I think I've told you this before. I have a list that basically is titled "Shit I'll never do," shit I'm never going to get done. Excuse the language, but it's true.
No, it's okay. I think I've accepted swearing on the podcast, so it's
perfect.
Feel free.
Perfect.
It's an explicit Sorry, no sponsors, guys, or some. I don't know what that does.
Or bleep, bleep, bleep. Yeah.
Bleep, bleep.
Yeah, it's just the amount of ideas that you have. It's wonderful. We all have ideas. We all have things that could move forward, and there's a lot of ways that we can do them if we have the time to commit to them. Most of the time we don't. Most of the time we're trying to master one specific thing or a few things, but beyond that, there's going to be a whole lot of things that you want to do or you imagine are going to be amazing. But until you get the talent behind that, whether that be yourself or a team you hire, which will still take time to manage, they're not going to happen. So being able to sacrifice those things is insanely difficult because you see the potential. You hear constantly the barragement over social media and all these people telling you, you could be a $60K a month today. You could be making this by tonight. That's not true. Like, they took a lot of time to get there. Like, even like for example, setting up this podcast. not to your problem, but like mostly my schedule. It takes time. Like, you still have to schedule with the people. You still have to like go back and forth in emails. You still have to like do the preparation. You still have to think about questions. You still have to set up the software, research the software. All those things take time. And do I think you did that within an hour before our meeting? No. Do I think this podcast is going to make $60,000? Maybe, but that's a hopeful. But the point is,
if it happens, I owe you a very nice dinner. We can do something fun for sure.
Wonderful. We can eat digitally and just eat over camera, and it'll be the weirdest podcast ever.
If I'm making $60K, I can fly to LA. We can get some good food or something.
There we go. But yeah, it goes back to the manifestation, but you also have to put in the work, right? Like, there's one thing to attach yourself to something, and then there's another thing to get your hands dirty and actually do it. And all those small little side projects, like I have plenty. I have, some people I'm trying to help with the animation studio on multiple fronts. I do consulting and I do scheduling and budgeting for other people. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, I bite off more than I can chew. There's a line I have to draw in which I tell somebody no. And that moment I draw that line, by the way, even if I'm offering a free service, people get upset. And they're like, well, why can't you do that? I'm like, because I'm doing it for free. I'm doing it for free, and it's okay to be selfish, I have bigger aspirations for my own goals, and I want to meet those goals and this is now taking up too much of my time. I apologize, but this is where we have to leave this for now. And I wish you best of luck on your journey. And that is so hard to say, especially if you're a person that's empathetic or you're a person that is a people pleaser. And there's a whole lot of those out there. And then there's a whole lot of people that don't care at all, which don't burn your bridges if you're one of those people.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, that's the intricacies of humans. That's how we deal with one another, or one another rather. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, I think that's one thing that like, I think a lot of people can do better with, just appreciating people's time. And, I think one thing that I always found interesting, not to get off topic, but you got cell phones, right? You can immediately text someone and you're expecting an answer pretty quick, right? Whereas like 20, 30 years ago, you'd call someone's like, house phone and like, all right, well, I'll get back to them in a couple of days or something, so it's just like the expectations I think are very different. And, me, for instance, I'm very appreciative that you took the time and was able to come on. And, if you needed to reschedule and do stuff, and I was like, all right, well, that's the way it is. I know you're a busy person, and if you had to reschedule 10 times, then it's all right. Well, this is the way it is. And that's okay. I think people don't realize that, and a big thing that like from my like voiceover coach and voiceover mentor and stuff, like I know he's a very busy person, so like when I reach out, I try to be direct, straight to the point, and hey, whatever it might be, and just not waste his time, and I think that's a big thing is just, people's time is very valuable, especially when someone's, kind of doing you a favor or whatever it might be. Even if you're paying them though, it's like, you're paying me to do this. This is what my expectations are for helping you. And if your expectations are different than what I'm putting out there, then I don't know what to do for you,
Right. Flipping that just on this same particular case, and I appreciate your thankfulness and everything, but being late to this meeting was also unnecessary, and I owe you an apology for that. So even if it's technical, you go back to respecting somebody's time. You should show up 15 minutes earlier. You knew exactly where I was too. It's not like it was a secret. It's not, I can't be like, oh man, I fell down the stairs. No. I was on TikTok and I was streaming with some other people.
I saw you making your coffee.
Yeah, then exactly, my coffee that exploded on me.
You inspired me. I was like, when I texted you like 4:10, I was just like, I'm gonna go make that. I did a little espresso shot. I was like, all right, this is great. Ready to rock. Ready for the podcast.
As you should. You got to get that caffeine. Just Oh, did I just trigger the camera? I don't know, man.
Oh no, you're good.
It was like clap on, clap off lights. Yeah, but it's the respecting time, and also don't be so egotistical that you think that someone beneath you doesn't have time that's as valuable as yours. I can't tell you how many times I've had above the line people, or people in my position, or even people just somewhere on the totem pole, look down on an assistant or look down on those people and say, what are you doing? You have time. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're dealing with some stuff at home. Maybe you're dealing with some medical issues. Maybe you're dealing with a variety of problems in your life, just like I am, because you're human. And if you don't do that, later on down the line, when that person dedicates their time and finds the new thing that's making tons of money, or finds a project that you love and want to be a part of, who do you think that person's going to reach out to? Do you think that person's going to reach out to you, the person that was being a jerk? Or do you think they're going to reach out to the person that was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Hey, is there anything I can do for you? Or the person that sends them flowers just out of kindness? I don't care what their experience is. If they send me flowers, I know they're empathetic. And I also know they care. Please, come work for me, flower person. Yeah, it's nuts. Anyways,
tangent. I definitely agree with that. I think, people lower on the food chain, I guess, or whatever, in the industry and stuff and other areas, I'd argue they might have less time than you. They might, this job might not pay enough and they got to go work another job right after, like you said, they medical or family stuff or, whatever it might be. And then, that person in the higher position, they might just have to do that job. And sure, they might get annoyed with emails and phone calls after they clock out. Obviously, they have their own plate that they're dealing with, but you might just be in a better position a lot of times, I would argue, than that person that you're just, kind of getting upset with. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And you also just don't know, like, along with like what you don't know is happening inside of their lives. I have a rule on a film set or on a show or whatever it is, really. I try to my best, and sometimes I break it because we're all human, and I get tired and I get whiny. I try not to.
Need a little bit of water, right? A little sip of water.
Yeah. Like, go get that Snickers bar,
Go.
Hey, Snickers, if you want to, Jay here is going to make 60K off of you, so why don't you go ahead and pitch it? But I'm his agent, 100K. Anyways.
Yeah. He takes 110%. I'm kind of getting screwed out of the deal here.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. So the fact that you can kind of like know that when you show up to a job or even someone around you in everyday life may have been there longer than you, have worked longer than you, have been up longer than you, or they've had a super bad day, or someone in their life maybe passed away, just like that empathetic, humanistic quality, you have to remind yourself that. Because the moment you complain, like I'm just saying for set work, if you want to be on a set, don't walk onto a set and be like, oh, I'm so tired. Because that person next to you probably has already pulled a double, or they've been on it for 5 weeks and they get maybe 2 to 3 hours a night. And you don't even scratch the surface. The only thing you do is look bad. So like, commiserate, but don't project. Don't try.
I think, to bounce off that, we kind of had something similar when, way back when we kind of did, bigger kind of music festivals and, stuff like that. But one of our big rules was like, just try not to, don't complain. Don't openly complain. And like, if something's wrong, like pull one of us aside and let's talk about it. But like the moment you're like, my feet hurt. Well, now the whole crew's feet hurt, like that's
sympathy pain. Yeah.
And it's just like, and then it gets in their head where it's just like, well, I guess my feet kind of hurt too. I've been up for 12 hours, and then they start getting, whereas they might be in a great mindset, even though they've been going for 14 hours straight. But then you come and make these comments and it's just, I think people being more conscious of kind of their surroundings in those moments, I think is really big, for sure. Yeah.
It goes back to the positive energy, right? And like just being able to like what is the saying? The weakest link in the chain, right? Is like, is a problem. That's as strong as you'll be, right? Like you have to have a team that works like this. They have to, because they support each other. And the moment it starts breaking apart, things fail. Things fall through.
Absolutely.
Money is spent, and that's what studio cares about. I mean, if we're going back to studio talk, but like, everybody should just do their best to work with one another and be in a best headspace they can be. Not saying you have to be happy, but try, well, try to be good.
I definitely, for me, 2025 was I don't know, one of the, probably might have been the toughest year of my life in a lot of regards, but also pretty rewarding, in the sense that like I'm pursuing, the voiceover and, have that light. So I think that's another thing too, is like when people are in those dark times, is, just try to find some light to latch onto. And for instance, people that, let's use for example, someone on set and they, like blah, blah, blah. And like, sure, you might have a lot going on, but like, hey, you're in this set and you're in this opportunity, and just be in that moment. Wow, I'm working on this set that I've wanted to pursue, or whatever it might be. It's just, I'm here now, and leave it at the door, until we leave. And sometimes you can't. And like, I think that's also a part of being human, is like, hey, I just can't do it today, and I got to step away, and I appreciate you understanding. And obviously there's times where you have to put your head down and get your shit done, but
but a key point there is admitting it and relying on the team that's behind you, because
for sure
you don't know who else can commiserate with you over that. And they can also maybe give you some advice that will help lift you up, or just in general be there for you, maybe even in silence. But this goes back to like, yeah, sure, you can bury it as deep as you want, and sometimes you have to push through it, but not asking for help over something is kind of one of those failure points. I'm not calling anybody a failure, but I am saying like you should try to rely on those around you, because you'd be surprised on what people will show characteristically of themselves when you least expect it. Like some of my favorite people in the industry, some of my favorite people in life, arguably most, are the grumpiest. Like, so angry, nobody wants to deal with them. But when you truly talk to them, they're usually the ones that'll give you the no BS answer. And if you don't understand it, they'll be happy to yell it at you. But here's the key part. They're still yelling it at you. Some people won't even tell it to you. Like, those angry people are happy to get it across the table. And I am happy to accept it. And I learned something from that yelling. So, you know what? Hey, you be angry. I'm all for it. Bring me that.
I that's one of the reasons, obviously I'm a little biased, but that's one of the reasons I really like the Northeast. And, compared to like other places, like even, LA, I always use like the sweatshirt analogy.
Just kidding.
I would say like, not everyone, but, obviously I feel like some people in LA are trying to like live up to this, I don't know. There's just like this level that they're trying to live up to, and whether they're doing like the fake it till they make it kind of thing or whatever. But I always use like a kind of sweatshirt analogy. And I feel like someone that is a little bit more passive or whatever might be like, oh, well, yeah, man, it's really cold. You should really have like a sweatshirt. Like, yeah, it sucks that it's cold. Whereas like someone in Mass or like Northeast is going to be like, dude, it's so cold. Like, what are you doing, bro? It's like -3 out. Like, here's a fucking sweatshirt, and like throw you a sweatshirt. And they solve the problem, and I feel like there's a lot. And again, I was just kind of using LA as an example. I think but I think for me, a lot of people in like the Northeast, they have that kind of cutthroat, like, dude, like, what are you doing, kid? And then they just like, then they blast you, and they're like, all right, like, okay, you good? All right, let's go, So,
it's less of a problem internationally too, by the way. Like if you go out into another country, for a lot of places, they'll be like, what are you being? Why are you dumb? Like
literally,
like, what are you doing? Like, not just cold, but why are you making the choice you're making? Can you explain it? And they are caring. They are looking you in the eyes in a real uncomfortable way. And they are saying, please explain to me why your heart desires are wrong. Because I want to understand. And then you're like, okay.
No, they're genuine.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've gotten that too. I tend to research wherever I'm traveling, or, what I think it does nowadays. But I'll look, oh, this place was really rude or whatever it might be. And like, to me, it's just over here, you go order coffee. Like, all right, cool. Anything else? And it's like, it's a transaction. It's not like some people are obviously nice and everything. And like anything I can get for, and smile or whatever. But you go other places and to them, it's just, I'm sorry, you were just ordering a coffee. Did I do something to upset you? And it's just, well, you didn't smile at me and like, rub my back while you gave me the coffee, like.
Yeah, 3 massages free, isn't it? With this, like, what's going on?
But I always find that interesting because like, again, we recently went to Iceland, and I didn't really see it much. Iceland was beautiful, by the way. People were super nice. I really enjoyed the Icelandic people. But a couple of comments I saw on Reddit threads or whatever was like, yeah, some people can kind of be cold, and it's just, no, they're just not like, they're just doing their service. They're not smiling at, and sure, some people definitely smile, but like Americans, we're very much smiley and like, hey, cool, and that's fine too. But I think there's a few times I'm just, yeah, you just must be like from another less cutthroat part of the country, and that's okay too, I've certainly traveled around, the States quite a bit, and I've gone to areas that I'm just like, wow, you move differently here. Especially, you go down south and like certain areas where it's just, they're so much slower with their day and time and like their pace of talking, like there's been many times where I'm talking and they're just like, what? And I'm just like, sorry, I will slow it down. My bad. And it's just like that. We're just so fast paced here. So
Yeah, you have to be accepting to go faster or slower. I mean, it's just it's the momentum, right, or the rhythm. When I went to Costa Rica, for example, the whole pura vida thing, right? It's like, yeah, it's gonna happen when it happens. Like I ordered a drink, and it didn't come for like an hour and a half,
yeah,
and I went to the bar, because honestly, an hour and a half is a ridiculous amount of time
yeah,
to wait.
that's a little bit much. They
But when I
probably
went to the
forgot.
bar, they were talking, and I'm like, "Hey, that drink," and they're like, "Yeah, it'll come," and I'm like, I I instantly had a little American heartburn and then went, okay, you know what? I'm on a beach. It's lovely. I don't care. And then I went back and I sat, and eventually I got my drink and it was lovely. I wouldn't order from that bar again, but that is a lot of the culture. It is very slow, it'll happen type of pace, right?
Yeah, the island time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very much just dialed back, just like in the South in some spots, or in LA. There's different parts of LA. You just go to it. There's such a variety here. You go over into
For
Santa
sure.
Monica, and it's like beach vibes, and everybody's like cool and laid back, and it's nice, and yada yada yada. Then you go up over to the studios, or you go up into the valley, and it's like, we gotta get this done. We gotta get this done. Okay, where are we going? Okay, we gotta drive 2 hours. Okay, we gotta, and it's like, do we? Like, I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know.
it's so interesting. I mean, again, the states are so big, so there's just even just LA alone is just very, very diverse and different things going on. And I think one of the biggest telltale signs, if you walk around like a city, you walk around New York, Boston, it's just like the speed walk, and people are moving, and so are their mouths. They're talking just as fast as they're walking. you know. So yeah, it's really cool. And we recently, I feel like a lot of people complain about like all inclusives and stuff for that reason. Oh, like took like I paid to be here for free food and drinks, and it took 3 hours or like half an hour to get my drink, and it's just like, well, like they're on island time, and they're not working for tips. So
Right.
like there's that aspect too, where it's just like they're not trying to flip tables. They could
Yeah.
care less.
Yeah, yeah. I'm assisting with a couple high profile jobs that has nothing to do with my industry, but they are very wealthy people, and those wealthy people have very very high expectations. I mean, I'm talking like millionaires to like upper, maybe reach the additional level, and it's like you have to meet every one of their expectations, right? But sometimes they want to be told no. Sometimes they actually need that guidance from you as a professional. And that's what some people can't get over. Sometimes people are hung up on the fact that somebody is superior to them, and that's a grave mistake, in my opinion. Like, you should never think that someone is more superior than you for any form or reason. We're all human. Granted, they may have a head start on you, or can acquire things quicker or more easily than you. But at the same time, like, they should still respect you. And that's kind of like, if you are the type of person that becomes successful and you still respect the people below you, you're going to do far better than the person that gets to that level and doesn't respect the people below them. So,
Definitely. I think being able to, put yourself in other people's shoes is like a huge quality that, people definitely need. And I think, to bounce off what you said, yeah, like a lot of these higher up people, they might not have the experience or whatever, but usually, and, maybe if they might have gotten it passed down to them or whatever, but regardless, a lot of these people still, they're putting time in. And I think a lot of people don't realize, just like whatever the field may be, whatever they're doing, they're putting time in. And I think that's, you were mentioning earlier about, staying in LA for a year. I think most people probably fail because they're not giving themselves enough time, in a lot of different regards and different, whatever it might be, just giving yourself time, not even necessarily going 0 to 100 on learning everything, but just giving yourself the time, allowing yourself to fail, allowing yourself to win and make achievements.
yeah. And, going back to your talk about 2025 being so difficult, and the fact that you reached your darkest hour, in the sense of like terminology and scripts and everything, as a character reaches their darkest hour, they're like at their lowest point. And that lowest point is typically when you actually forge your strongest like bonds. you're able to come out of the fire and you're able to acknowledge that something really impactful happened in your life. And those are probably things that you're going to carry with for the rest of your life. And they're going to be strengthened by the failure that you encountered. And you can't take that away from a person. So whenever you're really having a tough time, whenever you're so down on yourself or you're so beaten back by whatever your job is, your personal life, or anything, just remember that what you're dealing with right now it could be the hardest thing you're dealing with. But in the long run of things, you're going to look back on it and you're more than likely going to be thankful for the experience you had, because you're going to have more of an understanding of how the world works, how things work, and how to handle situations for yourself as well as your community. Like, now you can tell other people about your experience. And not only is that therapeutic, but it's also, giving back. And that's kind of what our whole thing is, right? In this life, we're sitting here. Teachers do not get paid enough money. They teach other people. They teach the kids, and like everything just grows and grows. And that's what we're looking after. We're looking at the benefit of the human race, right? Essentially. So, I mean, you could argue it if you really want.
Well, we're all spinning on this earth, depending on what you believe in for the first time, or at least consciously, we're acknowledging this. It's all our first go, our parents, grandparents, everyone. And I try to have that kind of sympathy too with people. It's just like, especially, your older kind of peers, or not peers, just, your elders, I try to remember, like, hey, this is their first spin around this here hurling object in the middle of the universe, so, and just being, the likelihood of us all being here at the same time, that's another level that I try to appreciate. Is just, yeah, people are like, oh, I wish I won the lottery. It's just like, dude, you did, man. Like, you did. Right. You really did. Like, you're a human. You got thoughts, and like you said, I think your toughest times definitely kind of show who you are as a person and what you can kind of bring out, and, some of the directions you want to go. And, I think, diamonds are built under pressure, right? Is that the saying, so to say?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the saying. Yeah, it makes sense, whatever you just said. So, yes. And I also love talking to the older generation regardless. I love talking to people that, honestly, that are my senior, that are seniors in living centers, whatever it may be, because, seriously, ask them a story. Ask them to tell you about something that they encountered in the past. Write down a list of 10 things you would want to know about, let's say, your favorite person in the world, right? Your biggest icon. If you met, like, let's say, well, I don't know if it's the right person, Michael Jackson, for example. Like, what was the most impactful? What are the key moments? And now take all those same questions and you go ask those same questions to someone in a nursing home that's sitting there, and they more than likely go out on the same balcony every single day and listen to the same thing, listen to the same music, dance to the same thing, eat the same food. And I guarantee you they're going to have some interesting stories. They're going to be able to tell you about a time that wasn't then and now that probably trumps a lot of your cool stories that you're currently living in your life. Maybe not, but the chances that 10 of those people won't be able to are so slim. You're going to find so many cool stories, because that's what we do as humans. We experience things, and we take those experiences and we actually craft the content, the scripts, the media that we ingest on a daily. There are heroes. There are enemies. There are nemesises. Those are the character flaws that we build and construct in our lives. And that's, uncovering them is a journey in itself. And it's so much fun to do. Anyways, I could talk on that for a while, but I won't.
No, I mean, I love that. And, I think that's a big, part of the podcast. I definitely want to bring on people with stories and, people talking about like how they got where they are. And I think it's fascinating, just learning about like, your grandma being the inspiration that like, that was kind of might have been the butterfly effect to you getting into the industry, you know, and that's just super, super cool to me, you know, to see those things. If I didn't start doing voiceover, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I probably wouldn't know what the heck you are, you know?
Yeah.
You know, shout out to Ken, you know, Ken connected us.
But, who's now on YouTube, and here's his plug. Just kidding.
Dude, I was like, I feel like he's on live quite a bit now. I was like, I feel like I always see him. It was impressive. I was like, nice, dude. You're killing it with the live game, you know?
You know, even no matter how successful you become, he's one of those cases that you can be super successful and you can love what you do, or you don't love what you do and you still want to find meaning. And I don't know, I haven't like fully invested into like breaking down psychologically what his motive or anything is, not to make this entirely about him, but it's important to take in consideration that like when you find something you love, you should go with it. And
definitely,
if you don't like what you do, it's not the be all end all, and you can change the things you're doing. And if you find enjoyment in like similar to what he's doing, if you find enjoyment in streaming, or you find enjoyment in like just taking a break from your constant daily, do it, because it's only going to improve your life. Like,
absolutely.
Sometimes you need to step away. And I'm not saying, I don't know if that's what he's doing, but like, I know he enjoys it. So
yeah, no, and I would love to have. I might have to ask him to come on, you know, because I find him, he's a definitely interesting character, and you know, he seems like good vibes and, you know, a good dude. So I appreciate kind of what he does too. So
and he's really big on marketing, like we were talking about earlier, in the psychology behind marketing, and being able to like pinpoint sales and stuff like that. And that's just a whole other chapter in your stories, right? Like there's
absolutely,
so many people
for sure,
right now that are changing the landscape of marketing with the new technology and the way we're consuming content. It's ever evolving, and I think it's so fascinating to hear what people are doing, even like the newest of people. Like, it's really cool.
I think this podcast is, you know, obviously telling stories, inspiring, and kind of bringing people on, see what gets them going. What's some things that, you know, that have helped you kind of adapt and overcome and just keep moving forward, and just, yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more what helps you move along. And
it's a good question to ask yourself, honestly. Like, we all should be asking ourselves, like what motivates us, right? For me, I just wanted to pinpoint something that I really enjoyed, and it's hard to live in a world where you have to make ends meet and do the things you love, because that's not always possible, right? But don't let go of the things you enjoy, nor the people that are around you, because ultimately those are going to be the pillars in your life that support you the longest. And for me, those people that surrounded me, whether it be my partner, my friends, my family, all of them contributed to where I am today. My professors, who I still stay in contact with, because, I mean, they got me here. And most people just leave their professors and never talk to them again. But that doesn't mean that connection should be lost. People in your life are going to be the biggest thing that are probably going to influence you, whether you like it or not, right? It could be bad or good.
definitely,
and those failures you encounter with those relationships, because I have a very firm belief, belief that my job is essentially managing people. I manage vendors, I manage artists, I manage, you know, people involving in finance. I help, like, and not just manage, by the way, on an equal playing field across the board. I work with, I collaborate, just like this podcast here and now. You don't know what's going to come up, or when it's going to come up, or who you're going to meet. That could entirely change your life in like a second. And if you keep an open mind and you actually think about your daily and get out of your own headspace and allow that to happen, I have a firm belief that you're always going to end up doing something good, or at least having an experience that you can appreciate. So that's kind of like where I'm at.
I really enjoy that. I like that. And, you know, For me, I definitely, I've appreciated kind of our relationship so far, and just getting to know you more, and like bringing you on and like hearing some of your stories and kind of what makes the cogs go in Ed's head is really
The creaky ones.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, hamster on the wheel.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing that, especially people that are empathetic, I'm also empath myself. But just, remembering who was there before you put the bread in the oven, and before things kind of got going, and the people that help you make the bread, and you hit the place you want to, and you're sitting on the beach with your drink that came an hour and a half later, and you're like, I did it. Those are, I feel like, just appreciating the people that were there before things came to fruition. I think that's a big thing, and not to knock people that come after and get a little slice of the bread. I think having that appreciation for people that were there from the beginning, or that just helped you along the way, helped you with failures, helped you with success. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, and even if you're not an empath, like let's say you're a sociopath, which there's nothing wrong, some mental triggers in people's heads. They just don't deal or cope with certain circumstances or however it may be naturally. Those people still are going to help you, and you're still going to get to a place through knowing people or some sort of collaboration. So no matter what, whether you're doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the feel good, the deal, like just to grow, it exists. Like people exist.
Absolutely. For sure.
So, anyways, sorry.
No, you're good. I appreciate those words of wisdom.
This has been a great conversation. So
yeah,
thanks so much.
Dude, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I mean, I can, if anyone needs some excellent management skills, I can certainly connect you with Ed and make that happen. I'll make sure that you're not wasting his time though, because my man's got some valuable time here. So, but yeah, if anyone does need genuine management help in basically any realm, and especially in the film industry and just event stuff, and just trying to get your stuff going, definitely reach out to Ed. I can put you guys in connection. Well, that about wraps it up. Thanks for tuning in to Mike Happens Podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe on Spotify and available on my website, voiceswithj.com, and other streaming services. And join me each episode as we explore the beautiful, hilarious, and inspiring ways life shapes our stories. Until next time, remember, every story matters, especially yours.